Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootleggers, shills, debt slaves, serfs, peasants, vassals, meat sacks. Did I say vassals, serfs, debt slaves? Yeah, I think I did say all those. This is for you. I'm a useful idiot. Welcome. And let's go back to the good old USA again. And now that I've pissed off a few people talking about the gender pay gap, let me talk about the minimum wage. I've been talking about doing this for a while, and I'm kind of prodded now. And I encourage my regulars who already subscribe to John Barleycorn to watch his video on minimum wage, because he brings up some good points about just simple accounting with the benefits packages and things like that that people don't talk about when they're talking about these minimum wages. The cost to businesses supply all these other benefits other than the wage are significant, and not enough is discussed about that. So good job on that, Mr. Barleycorn. And I have to preface this by talking about my days on minimum wage. I remember having minimum wage jobs back in the 70s, and I think minimum wage was about $3.50. I think I remember when it went up to $3.65, when we were all very, very excited. $3.65 an hour. And I remember working for that wage, and of course my apartment at the time was only $150 a month, but that's another story. But I remember thinking, if when I made $3.50, that if I could make double that, $7 an hour, I'd be set for life. And then by the time I made $7 an hour, I realized that if I made double that, $14 an hour, I would be set for life. And then by the time I made $14 an hour, I realized that I'd have to make $28 an hour, and then I'd really be set double what I was already making. So it seems like inflation basically takes enough out of your paycheck that every 5 years or so you need your wage to double in order to keep up with inflation. But of course it doesn't. So every 5 years you need that much more. So anyway, by the time I made $28 an hour, I couldn't even think about it anymore. So anyway, it just shows that people can live on what they have to, and that it's all up to other factors, just how much of a strain it is. So one should, instead of looking at the minimum wage, we should be looking at the value of money, the purchasing power of money. And since it's been decimated by over 95% since the creation of the Federal Reserve, and then all the Federal Reserve policies over the years, and all this inflation, then those are the real factors. And because let's remember that prior to the creation of the Federal Reserve, the money in the United States held its value. So the $100 in 1850 was worth this, had the same purchasing power in 1900, and so this purchasing power held for a long time. So let's look at those facts. But anyway, let's get down to brass tacks on this minimum wage thing. I kind of charted it out a little bit, and I looked at 3 points, and why the corporations want the minimum wage, why the government wants the minimum wage, and why the minimum wage will hurt the worker. So first of all, let's look at why the minimum wage will hurt the worker, because we've heard a lot about a lot of these. One is it moves them into a higher tax bracket, and that's something that people don't talk about. The fact is, and anyone that works around these type of wage brackets knows that at a certain point, for example, if you get overtime or a raise, you go into a higher tax bracket. So a lot of this is going to get eaten up by higher taxes. And then number two is a potential loss of other benefits. As Mr. Barleycorn pointed out, there's all kinds of other benefits that these companies put together, and if they have to pay higher wages, then there's going to be a loss of benefits, and they're going to trim back on these benefits, and we're actually seeing that. Number three, the big one, it will eliminate entry-level jobs, and this is true. It will eliminate entry-level jobs, and people kind of scoff at that. Well, let's have entry-level jobs that pay more. Well, it's easier said than done. One should be able to look at the skill level as well, particularly when you look at the fact that, well, you know, people complain about immigrants. They don't want illegal immigrants to get amnesty and just given a place ahead of the line of people who've already been waiting in line to get into the country legally. And one could use the same argument. Well, why would somebody? How is this fair to say somebody going into entry-level position that's going to maybe make $15 an hour. And that's what it took the other guy that works there 10 years to get to that wage. So this will definitely eliminate entry-level positions and will cause corporations to think twice about keeping a lot of lower-level employees. And this will also affect the management as well. That brings us to number 4. It will push up the wage chain. The wage chain of people working lower getting raises is going to necessitate pushing those raises up through the hierarchy. So everyone, the people that make $15 now are going to want to make $18 or $20 an hour and so on. So it'll just get passed up the wage chain. This will give corporations and companies and small businesses even more impetus to trim back on what kind of hiring they do. Number 5, we'll eliminate more mid-management, as I just pointed out. It will not just affect the entry-level positions. It will have businesses making the choices to eliminate more mid-management, particularly because they're going to need more grunts in the trenches and less people in the back of the house if they can get away with it, because it will facilitate their business more. Number 6, like I say, the loss of benefits packages, and that will be benefits offered to lower wage workers at the bottom, but also will affect the benefits packages going up the hierarchy the same way the pay scale will be. Number 7, a no-brainer, hours will be shortened. Simply, corporations and businesses will get around these wages by having people's hours shortened, and when the hours get shortened, they could end up back where they were as far as how much take-home pay they have. Number 8, we have government intervention. This is another thing that hurts the worker. Anytime you have any kind of government intervention, it's going to hurt the worker, and this is going to cause this government intervention is going to have a lot of seen and unforeseen consequences. A lot of them I'm outlining here. And then number 9, the cost will be passed on through inflation. So the cost of living will rise. As I pointed out earlier, when I was making a minimum wage of $3.50 an hour, I had an apartment that was $150 a month. Well, that same apartment, I'm undoubtedly is $800 or $900 a month, but the wages haven't gone up enough to make that low wage worker be able to afford that apartment anymore. So the inflation will keep chipping away, and in fact will probably increase as a result of these minimum wage increases, because as the workers get more money, the people out there will see the potential to charge more. And in fact, here in Seattle, we're seeing that happen. Once they pass the minimum wage laws here, and we're one of the more progressive in that area, in the true term of the progressive rise in minimum wages, and not necessarily a progressive idea. But we're seeing the rents here skyrocket because everybody knows these people are going to be making more. And so now inflation has maybe made some of these people make more money, but they're going to have a harder time finding some place to live, certainly close to work. And so those are some of the things that are going to hurt the worker. And anybody can point out some stuff below. I'm sure there's all kinds of details I'm missing in this discussion. So let's go to why the government wants the minimum wage. And number 1, it will move more of the displaced middle class into low-end jobs. So they really want to make the wages higher for a lot of low-end work because they know that the middle class is being decimated and displaced, and this will give them a place to go. So that makes a lot of political sense. It's not like they're compassionate. Number 2, increased taxes. We know the government loves nothing more than increased taxes, and of course increasing all these minimum wages is going to increase a lot of taxes they're going to get. So that's a no-brainer. Number 3, there's going to be a decrease in welfare demands, theoretically, because a lot of people are going to be moved out of their benefits programs as a result of this increase in wage. In fact, that's one of the things I should mention, how it's going to hurt the workers, because they're going to find that they're going to lose a lot of their welfare state benefits because they move into a higher wage bracket. So they'll probably end up shortening their hours anyway, just so they can keep these benefits they get because they have lower wages. But so for the government, they see more people theoretically getting off the welfare rolls, both as a result of higher wages for low workers, but also the middle class moving into those jobs. And of course, number 4, they love that it encourages inflation, and that's the part of the mandate and goal for the Federal Reserve policies right now, and this will help boost inflation. So that's another thing about the timing. Number 5, of course, it's a political investment. It garners votes, and this has worked for the liberal Democrats for many, 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 many years, decades, and more. And so it's a vote getter. And number 6, the military is moving to automation, so there's going to be less jobs in the military, and that's one of the things about the size of the military is getting smaller is not necessarily due to anti-military policies or being weak. It's more about the military moving to automation as well, and so that's not a good place for displaced low-end workers to go anymore. Number 7, the full-time work is not coming back. So they understand, the government understands that a lot of this full-time work, and that's been proven by the details, and the fact that we have one of the historically low labor participation rates right now, and so this realization that the full-time work is not coming back, and that so part-time work and low-end work has to pay more, and so that's what they'll do. Number 8, the economy is going to need less jobs. So not only is a lot of the full-time work that's left not coming back, but as the future unfolds, there will be less and less need for a lot of jobs. So they're going to have what jobs are out there at least pay more, and they've held off paying more for so many years. So let's remember that the minimum wage barely keeps up with inflation. In fact, it doesn't keep up with inflation, and therefore we know that timetable-wise, the rise of the minimum wage is not not the correct ratio to the trends out there. So I kind of lost my train of thought. I hate when I do that. But so anyway, the future economy will need less jobs, and the low wages have not kept up. And that's another reason why they can raise the wages now. They wait so long to do it, 5, 6, 7, 10, 15 years, that when they finally do it, it's a little bit too little too late. And so, but for the most part, they're going to need less jobs in the future. And then number 9, the government wants minimum wage because of the overall trend to automation. And that's a big one, and that's where the corporate and the government are together, because they are going to move more towards automation. The government knows it, and the corporations know it, and therefore this timing, as far as the minimum wage, is good timing for them. One reason why I think they're allowing it and even pushing for it and supporting it, so that because they know that automation's coming, so it's a moot point that humans are going to be getting more money. And then last but not least, why do corporations want the minimum wage? Well, number 1, because we will be moving to automation. They know it. The government knows it. There's going to be more and more people that aren't going to get jobs. And this is a trend that's been going on for a while. Everybody thinks it's all about jobs being shipped overseas, but there's also a technological revolution going on, and a lot of low-end jobs are being replaced by automation. And that's just a fact. It's been going on for decades, and it's accelerating now, and I'm very curious to see what the job market's going to look like in 10 years or 15 years. And some of these things are happening now. We have these tablets at Applebee's that's eliminated wait staff, these kiosks at McDonald's that are eliminating workers. There's chef robots, there's security guard robots, and then agricultural robots are being perfected. So what happens when huge migrant agricultural worker cultures are displaced by automation all across the United States? There's going to be some huge effects from that, and so the corporations know that they're moving towards robots, and they're going to move towards robots even faster as wages go up. And so that's why I know they know that this is happening. And not only that, of course, these robots are becoming economically sound and a good investment, and they don't have to pay benefits, and robots don't call in sick, and they don't have personalities and won't offend people and all kinds of things like that. So corporations really love it. And another thing corporations love is it hurts small business. So mostly minimum wage is going to hurt small business. The corporations essentially can absorb this, and so this is a real bonanza for them. They'll be able to crush a lot of small businesses, and we're seeing that places like Seattle, where the corporate chains are doing quite well. A lot of small restaurants are really having a hard time. And in fact, one thing they've done is they now eliminate tips. So they want you to spend, so they raise the prices on the menus so they can pay these workers, but they don't want the customers to have to add a tip on top of that because the prices are so high to pay for these workers. So that's going to be a bad trend for small businesses. So corporations love the fact that small businesses are going to get crushed by these new minimum wage requirements. And then number three, they can adapt. Corporations can adapt, and that's I brought up previously that they can cut hours, they can hire less, they can do all sorts of things to adapt to these wage changes, but small businesses can't. So that's another reason why they don't really care. It's not really the socialist idea that perhaps, okay, we pay these people more and they're going to put more money into the system. It's going to stimulate the economy. But the way things are now, the new normal, that just isn't going to happen because that money pretty much already gone. And last but not least, a story just came out that bears out some of these ideas about how the minimum wage is going to backfire in some respects, because we have these top cities, Washington, D.C., Oakland, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Chicago, that have all started moving up due to these new minimum wage requirements that are going to incrementally increase. And they've already found that in the slowest pace of hiring in 5 years in those kind of positions that involve minimum wage. So there's the direct evidence that maybe it's not such a great idea. And I know it's counterintuitive. I mean, I used to believe for years that you paid people more and they'd spend it more and it would stimulate the economy. But we now know that the economy, consumer spending, may actually only be 35% of GDP and not this nearly 70% that they use. In which case, this is a small stimulus to the economy for sure. And so that seems to support the idea that maybe consumer spending really is only 35 to 40% of GDP and not 70%, because this money is not going to stimulate anything. So too bad, because I want people out there to have costs, be able to afford the cost of living, particularly the basic cost of living, which are high and which continue to go up. And it's hard to see all these people struggling out there. It all seems like if you're willing to work, and particularly the kind of jobs that are available, you should be paid and you should be able to live. But once again, like I said in another video, it's not a perfect world. It's a corporate world, and we just live in it. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.